Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Lately Fashionable and my monthly UFO, finishing the object series. I'm going to try to film this quickly today, partly because this video is really long. There was a lot to July, surprisingly, and partly because I have pizza in the oven and I'm really hungry, so I want to go eat it. And I have about 12 minutes left before I need to go take it out of the oven. So, quick recap. I got this idea from my mom. She got it from Shelly Robson, who does a monthly UFO challenge. She's been doing it, I think, for 3 years on her YouTube channel. And basically, every month, I draw a number out of a box and pick that box to finish the UFO concealed within. I never have any idea when I'm drawing the number what I'm actually getting into. So it's kind of exciting. And for July, it was box number 10. And in here we have a finished object, an unfinished object, and a surprise bonus project. Roll the tape! Okay, it is July 19th and I am ready to start on my July UFO project. I do not feel like being on camera today, so you're going to see my hands instead. So we have a slip and a slip dress, both of which I think I can complete in the next 2 weeks because I have made both of these patterns before many times. They are two different patterns, and I'm going to start with the black one, the slip, and come back to the yellow another day. Now the black one is using this slip and camisole pattern, I think from the 70s. I don't know. I traced a pattern that belongs to my mom, and I didn't put any identifying information on the pattern when I traced it. I just wrote all of the instructions that I would need on the actual pattern. And I've used this so many times in the last 10 years. That's how long I've had this, 10 years. I made the first one in 2016, maybe 2015? I think it was 2016. I can refer back to my blog. I'll put that link in the description. So you've got the front cut on the bias, and then the back is cut in two with the center back seam, and that is also cut on the bias. And as you can see, there are lines for cutting it as a camisole length, and the edge of the pattern for cutting it to the full slip length. And as you can see, I obviously cut the black one on the camisole length. That's all of the fabric I had. Now, my pattern pieces are currently folded up below the camisole length because I am currently making myself a new long camisole, I guess, or short slip. I only had enough of this linen fabric. I had less than a yard. I think it was 30 inches wide exactly. So that was not long enough to make the full slip length, but I wanted longer than the camisole. And you can also very clearly see I had to piece the fabric to get the back pieces to fit, but it is all the same fabric. I didn't have to supplement with any other linen from my stash, which is good because I don't have any other linen in my stash. This is it. So like I said, I have made this pattern multiple times. The last batch I made, I think, was like 5 or 6, and I made them all in the summer of 2024 as part of my year of sewing vintage. It is now 2026, and most of them are wearing out. Exhibit A. This is one of the ones I made that summer, and I made it in the camisole length, and then I actually attached the skirt of a different slip, one of the ones I had made in 2016, but not on the bias. This was more of a 19th century chemise pattern. Anyway, the top of that one had dry rotted, and I cut the skirt off and attached it to this camisole to make it a full slip. And now the top of this one is dry rotting, so I need to fix that, what I'm going to do is just use the pattern that I've used many times before and cut a new neckline and make it, you know, a new camisole basically. Same slip but shorter. But not all of the ones that I made 2 years ago can be fixed. Some of them just need to be replaced, which is what this is going to be. I'm going to make this at the same time as making the slip that is my UFO. Okay, it is July 26th, so it's time to really buckle down and work on this thing. And by this thing, I of course mean the silky, lacy black camisole and the linen regular camisole that I'm making from scratch, and the old linen slip that I need to alter, and the yellow dress that I started making 2 years ago. So that's plenty. How much do you think I can get done before Friday? I think I'm going to start with the linen long camisole short slip. Mainly because I need more of these in my everyday wardrobe. I go through them so fast. So I'm going to make this one, then I'm going to alter the old one, and then I'm going to actually work on the project that is this month's UFO. Oofda. So the construction is fairly straightforward. Once I have, you know, enough fabric pieced together. I don't normally have to piece these, but I did in this case. Anyway, so first I'm going to sew the center back seam, and I'm going to do that seam the same way I did these, you know, piecing seams, which is a flat felt seam. Now, when I'm trying to save fabric, which I am in this case, what I typically do is offset the seam allowance by 1/4 inch, and then I'll stitch 1/4 inch in from the shorter side. That way I don't have to trim anything away before I fold it over and then fold it again and top stitch, which is the classic way of doing flat felt seams. But like I said, I want to conserve the fabric. I don't want to have to lose any, because it's going to be 3 seams total around the body. And although this is bias cut material, I first traced this pattern 10 years ago when I was a smaller size, so I do want it to fit. And the bias helps with that a lot because fabrics stretch pretty significantly on the bias, but I just want to give it as much help as I can. And no, I do not bother pinning the 2 edges together before sewing. Bias cut linen is actually pretty forgiving, and I've done this enough times to be pretty proficient at it. Did I immediately sew the 2 back pieces inside out? Yep, I did. This is supposed to be the inside of the flat felt seam. And now I'm just trying to decide if I care enough to fix it. And the thing is, this is an undergarment, and the whole reason I'm doing flat felt seams is so that it feels nice against my skin, because it's going to be the interior garment that I'm wearing under everything. So actually having the flat felt seams sewn down on the outside versus on the inside barely makes a difference, but if it makes a difference in the feel, it's going to be slightly better. So no, I don't care, and I'm not going to fix it. I'm just going to go ahead and finish sewing it together. I do iron the seam allowance before stitching down the flat felt seams. I just didn't film that part. Okay, now I have the full slip constructed, and I went ahead and hemmed it. And now it is time to put the lace edging on the front. And the way I do that is by following these instructions. It really doesn't matter how wide the lace is, but the length is important. I do keep it 17 inches. I actually recently made a new slip that I made the lace 18 inches, thinking that I needed the extra width at the front. I don't. I need extra width at the back. So I'm going to keep the 17 inches. Let's go look at my lace stash. I don't know if I've showed this yet in a video, but this is how I store my lace. You can see everything is labeled. So this is just what it says, lace that is fabric that I can cut pieces from. Got a few different colors in here. I don't use it very often, but I have quite a bit of it. Most of this lace I have just sort of gathered over the years from various sources. A lot of this embroidered lace came from my mom, who got it from a fabric store that used to carry bridal trim, and they were de-stashing, for lack of a better word, and my mom got it all for either cheap or free. Then I have, obviously, lots of lace that's gathered to some sort of band that you can then put in a garment, either like on a sleeve or on a hem. Oh, so much lace. I've gotten a lot of these at like garage sales. Just crazy amounts of lace in a grab bag. Now, I call this drawer insertion lace, which really just means that the lace is symmetrical along both edges, so it can be used as insertion lace in a garment. But for this project, I typically go for the flat lace, which is any lace that is not gathered to a band, but has one straight edge and one scalloped edge, generally. And I have two very long yardage lengths of cotton lace that I bought many years ago, like, I don't know, 5 to 10 yards of each, I don't really remember. And that's typically what I use for these slips and camisoles, because it's cotton and I want it to be comfortable and washable. I'm gonna go with this one. I think I have the most of it, and I have used it for several of these in the past. It's easy to work with, I like how it feels, and I like how it looks. After I cut the lace to length, I fold it in half and sew at a 45-degree angle at the center. Then I sew a line of gathering stitches along the seam line across the top of the slip, clip into the stitching line at the center point, and ease that front edge to meet the length of the lace. Once the lace is stitched down on top of the right side, I fold down and press the seam allowance on the wrong side, then stitch this to the back of the lace. Now it's time to finish the top back edge. I typically use seam lace, which I have quite a bit of in my stash. I sew it on top along the right side, then flip it to the inside and stitch the lower edge, with the tape now covering the raw edge of the fabric. I also slightly ease the fabric under the lace as I sew it, to ensure that it doesn't get stretched out too much. This is another thing that I have done so many times, I don't need to measure or pin it. I just do it by feel and by eye. In the past, when making these slips and camisoles, I have used strips of the same linen that I made the slip or camisole from. But in this case, I think I'm going to go with twill tape. I have a lot of twill tape, so I might as well use it, and that's so many fewer steps than making the straps myself. Once again, checking my construction notes. This time I cut the straps an inch longer than what I have written on the pattern, because I had cut the back down just a bit to make the slips sit slightly lower in the back. I attach the straps in the back first, stitching them very securely, and then I can try on the slip and pull the straps up over my shoulders to finalize their placement in the front, making sure they fit comfortably and securely. Of course, I have no footage of this. Okay, now it's time to fix that old worn-out slip. I folded it in half, matching up the side seams, and placed my pattern on the front so I could cut the new top symmetrically. I didn't bother with the back piece, just continued the line from the side front. And I followed the same steps to finish it as the previous slip. Okay, I now have 2 slips, one brand new and one repaired and returned to my wardrobe rotation. I'm really happy with how they both turned out. It's always nice to have a brand new bias linen slip. They're so nice. I think they're really pretty with the lace-edged neckline. Because these are undergarments, you will not see me modeling them, but I can show them off on the table, that's fine. I'm also quite pleased with how this fixed up one turned out. And, I mean, the discoloration doesn't really bother me. I might try to soak it in some OxyClean, see if it gets any better, but yeah, overall I'm fine with it as is. They turned out to be almost the same length. The older one is just a couple inches longer. So they're both like mid-length slips. I have made longer ones, and obviously I've made camisoles also. So yeah, it's good to have a variety and wear them with different outfits. Also, I did make both of these a little bit lower in the back than the ones that I've made before, because I have found that I have a few outfits that the top of the slip shows underneath when I wear them. So I will definitely be making all of them a little bit lower in the back from now on. But yeah, super pleased with those. And now I have more slips in rotation. And I can get back to the actual project of the video tomorrow at this point. Good morning. It is July 29th. I did nothing yesterday. Well, no sewing. I did a lot of editing. So I'm going to try to knock out the black slip today. Camisole. It's a camisole. I'm not fully awake yet. I don't typically sew in the mornings, and I definitely don't typically talk to the camera first thing in the morning, but I'm going to try to finish this before my kids wake up. So that's why I'm not fully camera ready. Did not do hair and makeup. Usually mornings are my editing time, and afternoons are my sewing time. But it's harder to sew in the afternoons when my kids are not in school. So here we are. This is straightforward, and it's not going to take very long. I just need to do all of the same steps as I did on the linen one, just with a brand new super sharp needle. So probably just going to speed through this and not talk much. I'll see you on the other side. In addition to changing the needle, I also used leaders and enders on this one, since the very thin, slippery lining fabric I was using was a lot more finicky than my linen. Leaders and enders are just little scraps of fabric. You can use the same scrap over and over, or you can use them to piece little bits of fabric together, like I'm doing here, and eventually make a quilt. The purpose of them is to keep the needle from pushing your fabric down into the faceplate of the machine at the beginning or end of your seam. I find them to be extremely helpful when using fine fabrics like this. They are also a way to prevent wasting thread if you're doing the quilt piecing method, because instead of having a couple of inches of excess thread at the start of each seam that you then throw away, that thread is getting used for another project that you're making alongside whatever your main project is. My mom, a prolific quilter, turned me onto the concept, and I am using half-square triangle scraps from someone else's quilt project that I have been holding onto for many years. The most time-consuming part of this whole camisole was unpicking the elastic from the scalloped lace that I wanted to use for the front. Both the lace and the elastic are stretchy and black. Not fun. I used tissue paper underneath the lace to keep it straight and stable when sewing the little 45-degree angle for the front. Okay, afternoon Chelsea is here, feeling much more presentable and polished. This is why I usually record in the afternoons. But I did get almost the whole thing done before my kids got up. Got the lace on the front, so all I have left to do is turn under the back edge with seam tape and add straps. I'm going to use satin ribbon. And then this one will be done. Feeling pretty good. My kids have been fed and they are currently doing their chores. When they're done, they have instructions to call me on the walkie-talkie. And once I've inspected their work, then they can watch some TV. So this is how I've been managing summers when I still need to sew and be mom. But yeah, very happy with this. It's coming together really nicely. I'm almost done. And then I can start on the yellow one. Okay, it's done, and it fits. Obviously I'm trying it on over my dress because I will not be modeling this the normal way I would wear it. So, yeah, pretty happy with that. So that is done. Hooray! And now I have about an hour before I promised my kids I would take them swimming. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the yellow dress. Clearly the first thing I need to do is press it really well. But I'm gonna look at what we have. So I remember I had, I think, only a meter of this fabric. I bought it in England, so that's why I have a meter instead of a yard. It's so beautiful. It's so... oh, the texture is absolutely gorgeous. It feels like butter. It floats. It flows. It's a pain in the neck to sew, let me tell you. Anyway, for this one, I'm using a pattern called the Vera Venus Slip. It was a free pattern I got from a blog many years ago, and I have used it 3 or 4 times. I've made at least 2 of my linen slips from that pattern. Okay, so let's see. This is the front. These are the front bust cups. I was able to get the full front piece without piecing it, and then I just had to piece the back, which goes like this. It's on the bias, so it's pieced on the straight of grain. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to iron it first. Here we go. Okay, I was just reading through the instructions to make sure that I know what I'm doing. Like I said, I've made this a few times and it's fairly straightforward. And I'm really so close to being done. I don't know why I ever stopped working on this in the first place. Probably because summer was over and this was going to be a summer dress. That's my guess. Anyway, like many of my UFOs, I am very close to being done and I just need to finish it up. So, okay, let's move the back out of the way. So here we have the front. I just need to gather the lower edges of my bust sections and then stitch them on. Finish the seam allowance. I'll probably serge it and top stitch it. And then I'll just add the back side, and then I just have to hem it and add straps. I have this beautiful double-faced satin ribbon that I think goes really nicely with this yellow. They're not the exact same color, but they're similar enough, and I think I'm going to cut extra long ribbons that I can tie at the shoulders. I think that will be really pretty. And I also have this golden yellow bias tape that I can use for the top back edge in place of the seam binding that I typically use for these slips. And then I just have to hem it and it's done. Here we go. Okay, same thing as usual. I'm going to do a flat felled seam, starting with the seam allowances offset. Okay, I'm going to stop here for the day. I have one side sewn, the next side pinned, and it is 2 o'clock and I'm going to take my kids swimming like I promised. I'll come back tomorrow. Maybe this evening. Okay, it's now July 30th and I'm going to finish this slip dress today. I did go ahead and sew the other side seam last night and I didn't film it. Now I'm just going to press and sew the flat felled seam. Then it just needs a hem and straps. Okay, I've tried the dress on to determine where I want to place the ribbon straps, and I'm having a problem. As you can see, the side seams have stretched considerably while I was sewing them. So I need to take them apart and redo them without stretching somehow. I looked up several websites with tips online, a couple of videos. Some were more helpful than others. I think what I'm going to do is stay stitch and go from there. Wish me luck. I got out my original pattern pieces so that I could line up the sides to the length they were cut to and spread out the fabric so that it was not stretched in any way. Then I took a piece of tissue paper, folded it in half, and pinned it to the edge of one side of the paper. Then I cut the tissue paper to match the edge of the pattern. And I cut an approximately 1-inch strip following that edge. Now I could pin the edges of the fabric to this strip and stay stitch a 1/4-inch seam allowance. Okay, I think this is going to work. I had to go in the house and get more of my silk pins because I had used them for another project and they were inside. Anyway, so this should keep the seam from bubbling. If I stay stitch right along the edge and then I can tear away the tissue paper, that will give me a nice stable edge that I can then seam together with the back piece after I've done the same thing to the back piece and go from there. Here's hoping. Okay, so it's better. It's not completely fixed. I'm hoping that when I press these seams, they will stop rippling on me, but this is a little devastating. Also, I can already tell I'm going to need to hang this overnight and let the bias settle, possibly more than one night, because the front of the skirt is dipping real low and I'm going to want the hem to be level. So I think I will put the straps on finish the top edge, then put the straps on, press the sides, and then hang it overnight and check back tomorrow. Of course, tomorrow I need to film the video that you are currently watching so that it comes out on the 1st of the month. So this is not going to be done. And that's okay, because I did finish the camisole and the 2 other linen slips that were not even on the list. And I am going to finish this, and I will just put it, you know, reveal footage either in a short later or at the end of my next video. We'll see. However that works out. So I'm going to stop here for now and go finish editing the video that you're watching. So here they are, the finished black camisole, the unfinished yellow slip dress, and one of 2 extra bonus projects, the new linen short slip. The other slip is in the laundry because I wore it yesterday, so it is already in use. But I can show you this one. There it is. Huzzah! And like I said, I let this one hang overnight to let the bias relax as much as possible. I still need to press the side seams, but I am hoping that they will settle down and then attach the straps. That will be finished later. But this one is finished, so I can check it off. And I'm going to give a partial check for the yellow dress. Should I add check marks for the bonus projects because they weren't originally in the box? I think I will. I think I did in May, so we're doing it. Extra check marks. Nothing wrong with that. Now let's pick the project for August. Not many of them left. These don't really shuffle in the box, so I kind of have to fudge it. Project number 1. What is it? Oh, it's heavy. Oh, I know what this one is. Okay, this is the 1940s maternity dress that I started so many years ago. I think I was pregnant with my son, so that would be 6 years ago? Oof. Oh. Okay, this is a really funny coincidence. The fabric I'm using is the exact same fabric as the top I'm wearing. Totally did not plan that. Obviously it's a different color, and I have a lot more of this. This is a small piece. Definitely enough to make a dress because I already cut out the whole thing. So, yay! That will be good. Another dress. I love dresses. So, August will be the mint green vintage dress. And I can check off 1.5 items for July. All right, I'm going to wrap this up so I can go eat pizza. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, feel free to give me a like. If you want to see more, definitely subscribe. And I'll see you next month with, hopefully, a new dress and a link to my brand new Patreon. I will see you then. Bye! I think I'm going to start... Whoa. Now let's pick the project for April. Not many of them left. What's it gonna be? Did I say April?